Greetings, everyone. It's your boy, Lance Johnson, the host of the See-Through Podcast, a podcast that creates transparency on disabilities and the champions with them. Was it cool that I said your boy earlier, or should I not do that? Anyways, welcome to episode 12. Episode 12 features Neha Arora, who lives in New Delhi, India. Yeah, you heard that right. The podcast is getting global. Neha is someone that should definitely be on your radar. She runs her own travel company called Planet Abled. What's Planet Abled? Well, Neha is definitely going to tell you more about it, but here's a quick intro. Planet Abled provides accessible travel solutions and leisure excursions for people with different disabilities. Planet Abled is the only organization in the world where they mix people of all disabilities together into one group and travel together, which to me is like a perfect fit for the See-Through Podcast. You know, I have retinitis pigmentosa, or RP for short. While my disability is a vision disability, I'm trying to talk to everyone. I'm trying to talk to people all across the spectrum of the disability community. Anyways, I'm talking too much. Let's just hear my conversation with Neha. Here it is. Welcome to the podcast, Neha.
My pleasure, Lance.
Hey, how are you doing today? You're in India, right?
Yes, I am in Delhi in India.
Yeah, you're my first international guest.
Okay, that's an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you about your business, Planet Abled.
I'm glad to share the story.
Yeah, and I want to chat about you as well. So I know the background of Planet Abled because I reached out to you and wanted to talk to you about it because I think it's such a neat company and what you do there. Can you tell the listeners about Planet Abled and kind of the origin of it?
Sure. So Planet Abled provides accessible and inclusive travel solutions for people of all disabilities, giving everyone the freedom of choice to travel. So whatever the disability is, someone could be a wheelchair user, blind, deaf, autistic, or have any other intellectual or cognitive disability. They should have the freedom to choose whether they want to travel solo, whether they want to go on a romantic getaway with their partner, or whether they want to go with their family or friends, or go for an adventure trip of rafting or skiing or hiking or whatsoever. And also, we try to promote inclusive travel, as in the group trips that we do are always inclusive, in which everyone is invited. So whether you in one group, you can have a wheelchair user, blind person, a deaf person, a person without disability, all traveling together. Awesome.
Yeah. Whenever I was looking you up and found you, I liked the backstory of why you started this. And it has to deal with your parents and your childhood. Can you tell everyone about that?
Sure. So as a child, I could never travel because both my parents are persons with disabilities. So my dad is blind and mother is a wheelchair user. And we have always seen them that way. That's the way they got married also. And when we grew up and we also started earning, we were like, okay, now we have more money, so luxury travel will solve the problem. But it wasn't the case. It was always like you travel 2,000 miles only to realize that the place is not accessible or doesn't give you the kind of experience that you would look forward to. Or people would say comments like, if you face so much trouble, why do you even come? So that series of, bad experiences, one bad experience actually turned into a mob fight at a temple.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was the tipping point where my parents put their foot down never to travel again. Because they were like, anyways, it's never ending in a memorable, happy ending. So why to go at all?
Yeah. So basically, you said, is it your dad who's blind?
Yes.
And then your mother's in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
What are their, do you know his vision disability, what it's called?
So it's called iridocyclitis,
Okay.
which is kind of an inflammation of the eye. So he was 22 when he lost his sight.
Okay.
So he was sighted before, and it's a kind of today, like when I read about it, it has treatment today, but back then, so he's now 81, almost 82. So
Okay.
that was a very long time back, and there was no treatment then, and yeah.
Okay. And then your mom, what is her disability?
So she has polio,
Okay.
which also doesn't exist now in most of the countries, but she got it while she was 9 or 10 months old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how old were they when they met?
I think my mom was around 24 and my dad was around 34, like that. Like, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Theirs is an arranged marriage.
Oh, theirs was or wasn't?
There was an arranged marriage, so like you happen in traditional Indian families.
Okay.
That the parents, find a match for you.
Ah.
So it was that, and in a structure like India, it was an intercaste marriage back then, 46 years ago, which was not a norm. It's still it's not a norm even today, and they met through an English newspaper. Matrimonial advertisement.
Oh, okay. That's funny. It's a good backstory, good interesting fact there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that educated on Indian marriages. But anyways, back to the point. Your parents both had disabilities, and you said they couldn't really travel because traveling was a big daunting task for them, which, if your parents don't travel, you don't travel as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Which made you, it kind of inspired you to create Planet Abled, which is your company where people with basically any kind of disability can book a trip through Planet Abled and, would you say, go anywhere in the world?
Yeah, so not anywhere, I would say, at the moment,
Okay.
but there are 40 plus destinations at the moment.
Wow.
But yeah, so why it takes us time, because we don't just outsource it to anyone, just like mainstream travel companies do. We go there ourselves, do the groundwork, audit the place ourselves, and in terms of intangible stuff like training of the people who are involved in the travel experience, we do all of that preparation before anyone travels there.
Okay.
So that they have a consistent, seamless, and a memorable travel experience. Because one bad word and the whole travel experience can go bonkers.
Yep.
So
I can imagine that. So I have a vision disability where I'm kind of losing my peripheral vision through this eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa.
yeah.
And traveling, it's not really an issue for me now, because I still have most of my central vision. But I can definitely imagine how hard it would be if I was blind and wanted to travel somewhere, and how that would be a lot harder than, anyone else who doesn't have a vision disability. And I've had past guests who are wheelchair users, and one of them even traveled solo throughout the UK and Europe, which I thought was great. So travel is kind of this topic that it keeps getting brought up on my podcast. And I think there's a reason for it, because I think traveling is important. I've never left the country, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about here. But I do have plans to travel, and I want to travel. And it's not that I haven't done it, but kind of like, growing up, my childhood travels were very simple. They were, I grew up in the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
Yep. And my mom has RP, which is what I have.
Yeah.
So our trips, I loved our trips. I had a lot of fun on our trips, but, we would just go to the beach, or the mountains. We'd basically stay within our state for our vacations, or we'd go visit family in Georgia or something like that. But yeah, no worldwide traveling or anything like that. But as a kid, you didn't really get to travel because of your parents not traveling. As a kid, did it bother you? Is that what kind of made you want to start this, or did you kind of figure this out as you were older?
I think it was because we were born we saw their disability since the day we were born. So, yes, I asked my parents a lot of times that, okay, my peers are going for summer vacations or, winter vacations, why we are not going? And they were like, oh, it would be a lot of hassle because we don't know the accessibility of the place and things like that. So, and they try to compensate in other ways, we could freely go to our school picnics or go independently. So one thing that was different being a child of parents with disability is I got a lot of freedom.
Okay.
And I got independent very, very early. So I was in 6th standards, and I remember my mother giving me the money to go and deposit in the bank, which was my school fees.
Okay.
So no 6th standard student, I was 12.
Okay.
So would go to a bank independently on their cycle and deposit money, their school fees, right? So in a way, that kind of independence and the life training that was given to us, that, I could see other people didn't have it, like my students. So it was like compensating in a way. Okay, you could do that, but I could do this. And yeah, so somehow it was managed that way.
Okay.
And or they sent me with my elder sister is like 10 years older to me. So when she went for her trips with her friends, so she used to tag me along. No one else did, but she tagged me along because otherwise I would never get a chance. So that ways, but yeah.
So are you a big time traveler now?
Oh yes, last year I did 12 countries in 12 months.
Wow.
All for work.
All for work.
All for work.
You got a good job.
You can say that, so it sounds very exciting, but sometimes you're just going to a country for a day or two just for work and then just leaving without even exploring the destination. So even though it feels great that you've been there, it is like, okay, I need to come back again because I know I haven't actually seen the place.
Okay. So last year when you went to these 12 countries, where did you go? And was it with clients of yours?
So yeah, sometimes it was clients, like we were hosting conferences in a couple of countries. So we do conferences where people with disabilities are involved. So we do manage the whole travel logistics of those conferences as well. So that was, it was primarily work, or I was either speaking at a conference, talking about the work, or so it was a mixed bag. Okay.
And let's talk about your clients. And they come to you and they rely on Planet Able to kind of package this vacation experience for them that allows them to experience things. Can you run us through maybe one past trip you've given a client through Planet Able and where you went and kind of how you helped them enjoy their time?
Yeah, sure. So I think I can. I'll give you a basic process. So like there was this lady who came from New Zealand. She's like 73. And so she had been to over 50 countries already. She's an avid traveler. She's a wheelchair user. And so she reached out to me telling, okay, I need to travel to India, but I don't know whether it is even possible for me. Because India is not a very accessible country on the face of it when people consider it that way. So as a first process, what we do is do an assessment of their accessibility needs,
Okay.
because that is the most important part, that every person with any sort of disability is different and their needs are different. So every blind person is different, just like you told me about your condition, and my dad's condition is completely different, and similarly every wheelchair user is different, every hearing impaired or a deaf person is different, so the needs
True.
are different. And as a host, to take care of the needs while they're trusting us with their travel, we need to understand every single detail so that we are able to assist them seamlessly during the travel. We are not asking them and getting to know them while the travel is happening. We know it already, so that everything is organized and managed well according to their needs. And the hotels, guides, and drivers are briefed accordingly according to their needs, so that they know.
Yeah.
When they go and meet those people, they know everything about me. I don't have to tell them.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you have to do a lot of planning for these trips to to pull off these trips successfully.
Yes.
How much planning goes into it? I mean, I guess, I used to help coordinate some video productions and produce certain little small commercial shoots, and that little small commercial shoot required so much planning. So I can only imagine, what planning a trip would be like for, a worldwide travel with someone facing a disability.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any thing backfire?
So I'll first answer your, like, I think you asked me the previous question that the planning that goes into it. So
Yeah.
I'll just explain the kind of planning that we do. So say example, a blind person, right? So when we talk of accessibility in travel, it's always almost limited to ramps and bathrooms.
Yes.
But we don't talk about the accessibility for the blind or the deaf or the autistic at all. And this is not just in India, it's global. So, everything in the museum is behind a glass wall.
Okay.
Yeah. And there is information not available in accessible format for the deaf and the autistic people. There are not even consideration for people with autism while they're going to a place. So in terms of that, how do you prepare? So like what we do is, okay, there is a monument, so you create 3D printed models of the monument.
Okay.
Because otherwise you cannot touch the whole monument, right? But a person who is born blind and has never seen a monument in a picture also, how would they know what the monument looks like?
Good point.
So that all preparation, like in terms of museums, we go to the extent of asking for special permissions at the museums for our blind guests to touch the artifacts, which is not allowed to other people.
Oh. So you kind of get like this inside, like VIP treatment.
Yeah. Yes. So there are forts in India which is open only for the VIP guest, or even only their cars can go inside. My guest's car goes there where the VIP guests go.
That's awesome.
Because the whole point is, how do you make that experience seamless and accessible at every step?
Yeah, you want it to be easy, right? You want traveling to be enjoyable and for once, not have to worry about how you're getting there. Is it accessible? All these kind of precautionary thoughts you have to think of if you have a disability. It sounds like your Planet Able kind of takes that pressure off of you, and you let someone else do all the planning for you.
Yeah, because, I faced it myself. So I think of it that way, okay, whatever can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you prepare for it.
Yeah, you said there was a mob fight growing up with your parents.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about that?
So it was a temple. So here, no offense against any religion, even though I am a hardcore atheist now.
Okay.
But I was a hardcore religious person earlier part of my life.
Okay.
So whenever we travel, we used to go to temples, whatever were there. And trust me, they are not the very sensitive and very accommodating places.
Okay.
So even though they are religious places. So yeah, so they tend to overlook the needs of disabled people and give religion as a reference. Okay, this is not there in our religion. This is against our gods. This is, disrespect to our gods if we do this, if we do this accommodation for a disabled person.
Okay.
That kind of irks you. So while we were at a temple, I got some permission from the management. It's a huge temple, so the area is pretty big, and it's one of the very famous ones in India. And I asked for the permission from the management, came back, but at the entry, the priest that was there didn't like it that I bypassed him and went to the management for the permission or whatsoever. So he said, "No, this is against our religion." And I was young. This is 2009.
Okay.
So I got into a fight, and then he collected all the worshippers who were there outside. Oh, she's trying to do something against our religion. She's wrong, blah, blah, blah. And in India, you can get anything done on the basis of religion.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that happened.
Oh, well, I think you did nothing wrong. You just were sticking up for your family.
Yes. Yeah, I did nothing wrong. It's a basic human right. Well, how can you deny access to anyone?
Yeah. It's not really doesn't really fall in line with the golden rule,
Yeah, I just picked that up. But I learned it also the hard way that if you want things to change, you cannot fight out and change it, because the decision making anyways lies at the higher authorities. So now when I go for permissions, I go from top to down approach and get my things done instead of the other way. But there, like you were asking for a backfire. So like a backfire has happened. Like at one of the temples in Varanasi, it's one of the famous cities in India you might or might not have heard of. It's called the oldest cities in the world. You'll find that context. So everyone tends to go there. So there's a very famous temple there, and people from across the world want to go there. So one day before a guest was visiting, we got the permission, and they said, okay, the guest can come in. But the day he went in, he was denied the entrance. They said, you can go, but your wheelchair cannot. So that was undignified. Even though they approved it a day before, the next day they said no. And yeah.
Yeah, so it's just proof that even, a professional travel company who manages trips for people with disabilities still encounter accessibility issues. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Planet Able to exist. And I read that you're the only place on the whole planet that does what you do.
So like in terms of inclusive travel, we are catering to people of all disabilities and mixing them together to travel. Yes, we're the only one on the planet to do.
Okay, so when you say mix, do you mean you have, like, say someone books a trip? Is it like you're a group trip with multiple people are in the group, or is it a solo trip? Or can you pick? Can you have a solo trip or do a group trip?
So I started by saying the freedom of choice to everyone.
Okay, I like that.
You decide the way you want to travel. I don't have a say in that.
Okay.
Because you want to travel, and so you decide whether you want to travel solo or go on a romantic getaway, or you want to join an inclusive group which is open for everyone. So the whole idea is like, I would in a way, I somewhere feel that a company like Planet Able shouldn't exist. In a utopic world, everything should be accessible to everyone. Ideally, there was no need for a company like me, because ideally everything was supposed to be accessible for everyone, irrespective of whatever disability they have.
Okay.
So the ways it's not, the environment is disabling for you to experience the world. And I want to change the way travel happens on this planet, that everyone has the freedom to travel wherever they want, whenever they want, with whomsoever they want, irrespective of any disability, age, impairment, or any set of intersections that exist, like, a black woman who is autistic, right? So there are intersectionalities involved. We cannot put individuals into groups that, so there are companies in the world who are, like you were telling, you mentioned accessible travel companies. Yes, there are accessible travel companies, but they focus on one single disability. But isn't putting people into groups based on the disability you have a way of discrimination and segmentation?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to offend anyone, but that's the way I think. Why am putting people into groups based on the disability?
True. Yeah, it shouldn't be exclusive.
Yes. Why it's an identifier of my choice of travel.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that way of thinking. And I'm sure that makes the trips really interesting for the groups too.
Oh yes, I've had really exciting experiences that way.
So can you talk about maybe some of those trips and the groups of people and maybe the types of disabilities you've kind of mixed up, and then where you guys went and things you did?
Yeah, so there are many trips that we did with inclusive groups, wherein there was a deaf person, a blind person, a wheelchair user, a person with cerebral palsy who could walk a bit with support, and non-disabled in one group. And what happened was, like, this was something I did not anticipate, that they became friends outside of Planetable.
Oh.
Because the non-disabled also had a new kind of experience, because as a non-disabled person, when you travel very fast, and you try to skip on things and you skip on the details. But when you're traveling with a disability, you observe things deeply. So what we do in these mixed group trips, we make a travel buddy system, like depending upon how many people we have. And when they are a buddy to a disabled person, they realize, oh, this person is just like me. He or she just happens to have a disability.
Yep.
And that breaks all the barriers and apprehensions that people without disabilities have, interacting with a person with disability, that, they're someone different, and I need to be careful, I need to be sympathetic, all sort of mixed feelings that non-disabled people get. That goes away. That's like a complete icebreaker. And I've seen them going to each other's houses and having fun. And people coming back to me and saying, Neha, I want to make my office accessible because in the future I want to hire people with disabilities. Can you help me do that?
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like a very, very successful. Planetabled is very successful at creating these wonderful experiences that sound fun. It sounds like a good time with good people. And I, that's kind of how my podcast is, like my podcast, like I have a vision disability, but I talk to people with all kinds of different kinds of disabilities, because I thought it, and I've kind of noticed this, that there are like little cliques within disabilities. You kind of team up with people who have the same disability as you. Well, one, I understand it because it's relatable, right?
Yeah.
People are able to understand you. But, in terms of creating like an accessible world and trying to open the general public's mind on accessibility and the disability community, I think everyone needs to be on the same team, Yes.
It's not us versus they. We all are us. That's what we all need to think.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's talk about some countries that you've been through work. Where are you traveling? Like,
I travel to Germany often. So that's one of the destinations. And also, so this year in March, I was there when the ITB got cancelled. So ITB Berlin is one of the very famous travel trade shows.
Okay.
So 150,000 people come there for that just travel trade show from across the world. So they have an accessible tourism day, and I was the keynote speaker there, but that got cancelled.
Okay.
And but I was still there. I still went because because who waste a free ticket, and also who I had other things planned because I wanted to open Europe this year.
Okay.
So we are still doing that, but I got stuck there and I had to just take whatever flight was available after 4 reschedulings and everything getting cancelled. I just have to, just rush back home. It all just happened too fast. And before that, also, I've been to Spain for another conference only. That was in October last year. We just completed 1 year. It was 22nd or 23rd of last year. It was by the ONCE Foundation regarding travel and tourism technology, diversity in travel, and it has a very long name. It was organized by the ONCE Foundation, which one of the biggest non-profits in Spain that focuses on blind people.
Okay.
Yeah. So they do a lot of welfare work in Spain. And where else did I go? So then I went to Vienna. That was also for groundwork to open it as a destination. So, they've done some really good work in terms of accessibility of the museums. Brilliant. And especially for the blind.
Okay.
Wow. You must visit there. And, there's a lot of accessibility.
That's in Vienna?
That's one. Yes, that's one place I've seen really good work being done for the blind accessibility in travel.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I keep on hunting these things where I can find what all is accessible. So Spain is very great in terms of built environment accessibility. They have a lot of accessible beaches, and you can just walk even into a hostel, and it will be accessible to that level.
Okay.
And Australia, I was there for 3 or 4 days. That's another conference. So, whatever I could manage in that time. They have beautiful beaches, and they have freely available beach wheelchairs for everyone. Yes, and it's all free. It's a great accessible country, I must say. I was only in Sydney for the 3-4 days, but whatever I could say, they've done good work in accessibility, not at least for wheelchair accessibility. That is more evident. I didn't have the time to get into more details in terms of blind accessibility by going to other places, but yes. So, and then I've been to Nepal, where we hosted the conference for a non-profit, which was for people with and without disabilities. So that is pretty much like India, not very accessible. So you have to make temporary arrangements to make things accessible. So yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like some countries are more accessible than others.
Yeah. I've been to US also. Last May, I was there.
Okay. Where at?
So I was in Washington, D.C. and New York.
Okay, cool.
That was also for a fellowship that I got. And so the conference was there, and plus a few meetings. Yeah.
Awesome. Would you say what were your thoughts on the accessibility of Washington, D.C. and New York?
So it's in clusters. At some places, the new built environment is accessible, but the old the subways and the trains, they are not. So they've still got work to do. So like the train stations have machines which have those braille inscriptions on them, but then those stations which have these machines don't have wheelchair accessibility. So like it's very unpredictable. You really need to know where you are going and what the status of accessibility at that place is. But ADA has done a great job. I think we still have a long way to go. So, like in New York, you have accessible taxis, even with hearing loops for the deaf. But you go to New Jersey, there is nothing.
True.
So, so I think it's better than other countries, but it's still, it still has a distance to go.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm based in New York. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I'm really aware of this. Like, that's kind of why I moved here, for the subway system, because I don't have a driver's license. So I wanted to use public transit, and it works great for me. But I do know that there are issues with, for like wheelchair users and other disabilities. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've grown to be more aware of accessibility, and I'm always kind of, if I see a place isn't accessible, I try not to spend my money there.
Yeah, that's a conscious choice that you make, and it's a great choice. At least you have a choice to make that choice, I would say.
Yeah. I'm just, sometimes maybe I'm being too harsh, but I'm like, it's like some places didn't even try.
Yes.
Oh
yeah, they don't try. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you won't believe, when I started the company like almost 5 years ago, and I reached out to the hotels, they told me they don't come. Why should we even bother?
Yeah,
I'm like, it's a catch-22. They don't come because you're not welcoming and you're not accessible.
But yeah, that's why you exist. That's why Planet Able exists.
Yeah, that's why I exist.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this with Planet Able?
So on 1st January, we'll complete 5 years.
5 years. So what were you doing before Planet Able?
So I'm a wasted engineer by education. Like I did my education in engineering, like electronics engineering, electronics and communication. But so what happens is, so like engineering was a fad at that point in time when I, left school. And I never wanted to do it, but I was like, okay, instead of a plain graduation, you do this. Okay, whatever. But then I was absorbed, like campus placement happens, and then I was absorbed in a software company, which I never wanted to. And that led me to move into management internally. So I actually never used my engineering degree. So I worked into pre-sales, enterprise sales. I worked with Nokia, and I worked with Adobe, and I worked with a couple of other companies for about 9 years. And then left. Adobe was my last stint.
I use Adobe products for
Okay.
almost everything I do. Yeah, because I'm a video editor, so I use Adobe Premiere, and I'm using Adobe Audition right now for this podcast, even, and Photoshop. I don't want to give them a advertisement, but yeah, I do use a lot of Adobe products. So it sounds like you had a corporate kind of job, career. And I mean, that had to be a process too, like jumping from that career to this one. That's kind of a leap of faith. It must have been something you're really passionate about. How has that process been?
So, like I told you, it was 2009 when I had that fight.
Okay.
Right. So there's a whole timeline to it. So I thought, okay, maybe in a couple of years, my parents would be okay and, things would get back to normal. But then that wasn't the case. And then I started looking for solutions, and I could not find any. And when I talked to other people with disabilities, either they were not traveling at all or they were facing the same issues. So then I was like, okay, there has to be something about it. There were some companies in other countries, like developed nations to say, who were doing accessible travel, like small outfits, but still are there. But I had to be convinced enough of the model that I was about to build. And unfortunately, there was no data available here. So I have actually sat at international airports overnight counting the number of people that are coming out of the airport to build my own data.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
Sorry?
I said that's dedication.
Yeah, because leaving the career, I need to convince myself first that this will work. Because I'm going to do something where I have no reference. So I have to be sure of myself. I did it for 2.5 and 3 years. So I talked to people. I talked to the concierge of hotels, and various guides and everyone involved in the whole hospitality industry, building that data, like how many people travel, what disabilities they have, whether they're traveling for work, whether they're traveling for leisure, or how many days on average are they staying at each place, and what has been their experience, do they face challenges in catering to their needs, and talking to people with disabilities, that what sort of solution they would want to look like and what are the challenges that they face. So there came a point in around mid of 2015 where I was done with the homework, and every day at the job was like, if not now, then when? And my parents were already retired, so I had rents to pay, take care of them, bills, and all of that. But then I asked this question, even if I wait for 2 or 3 or 4 years, nothing's going to change. It will remain the same. So why not just take it one day at a time and see how it goes? And that's the day I resigned. And November 15 was my last working day. And so it came to a point that my quarter was ending and it was still 1 month to go. And I was like, I need the release now. And my manager was like, if you leave now, you'll lose money. I'm like, I don't care. So he convinced me to stay another month so that I could get that money. And that, of course, helped. So November end was my last working day at Adobe, and 1st January I launched the company. So because I had started the incorporation and groundwork before I left. So yeah.
Yeah. And then how long did it take for you to get clients?
So I think that was like a beginner's luck, if you would call it, or whatever. So on 1st January, I launched, made it public. This is what I'm doing and all of that. And, it's all online. And I was still like, okay, let me prepare. Let me do the homework. Let me plan the perfect trip. So then one of my friends said, that perfect trip planning would never end. Why don't you put a date and then do a reverse engineering? Because then you'll have a deadline to yourself. So I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. So I put 30th of January as the date of the trip. And on 15th January, I launched the trip that, okay, this is a trip that is open for everyone and for all disabilities. And it was a local trip, 6-hour trip, because I wanted people to have trust in us before, because you cannot tell them, okay, I'm going to take you rafting and come with me. It's accessible. No one will come. They need to trust you to come. And these are people who are living in the same city all their lives and never been to the neighborhood monument.
Wow. So yeah, so we're talking about traveling in a broader sense, like worldwide travel. So this is proof that people with disabilities, sometimes their travel is even limited in their own country, in their own place of residence. So you're saying some people didn't even see neighboring cities and towns or travel to them.
No. I had to talk to parents of 40-year-olds to convince them to send them, even though they were earning their own money. So that's an Indian construct. That's peculiar. That's not where people who travel with us from other countries. That's not the case with them. So that's a societal thing. based on the country that you're from. But yeah, I had to start from there.
Yeah. And you said you had to earn their trust. It seems like you did, and you mentioned rafting. You're having whitewater rafting trips?
Yes.
Whoa. What else do you do? Like, can you kind of list out some kind of activities that you've helped plan through Planet Abled?
Sure. So like most of our, so I design the trips based on like, engaging travel experiences, like local experiences. So, okay, people want to go to Taj Mahal when they come to India, or they want to go to the zoo when they go to Singapore. But there are other things also that the destination offers. Having, say, example, a high tea with the royal family in Kerala and getting to know their stories, in their own palace where they live.
Yeah.
How their transition has happened. Or, so there is a famous fabric called silk, of the silk fabric, which is very famous of India. So not everyone can afford to buy silk, and they might not need to buy because there is no use of it. But they can, of course, go to a local artisan, how they are making that.
Okay.
So because, most of these artisans are leaving or abandoning their arts because there is not enough money in them. But if you pay them for even the visit, this is an extra money for them without selling the products.
Okay.
So this is the way you try to support the local community as well.
Okay. So you're basically taking, so a client wants to go somewhere, they give you a destination, and they have one thing in mind. You find other things to do. Yeah.
So like it's based on, I asked for interest. Okay, what are your interests? Whether are you interested in heritage? You want cultural immersion? Are you an adventurous kind of a person? Or you want nature to be part of your trips? Or you are into wellness or spirituality? Or are you into food? So based on these inputs, you add those experiences into their itinerary and the travel plan, because then they'll be excited about it because that's what they're interested in.
Okay. Yeah. What if someone was like, I want to have really good food while I'm whitewater rafting? Is that possible?
So yeah. Not while, but of course, after you're done with rafting, you can obviously go then you can have the local food there.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website right now, and I clicked on the experiences tab. So for the people listening out there, you can go to planetabled.com and check out everything. There's a list of experiences, and it looks like,
it's not updated in a while. We are revamping it, so it doesn't still have all the information.
Yeah, but no, it's cool. It looks like you have ski trips, whitewater rafting. It looks like can you ride on camels?
So I won't ask that. So we can arrange for a camel chariot in a place where they are not exploited. So I don't support any of the animal rides.
Okay.
So that's something we like. It's a conscious decision, like going by the ethics that we want to follow. That a lot of these animals are exploited.
Okay.
In this trade, so we instead take them to an elephant rescue center. Okay,
Okay.
Why not? If you want to spend some time with the elephants, go spend time with the rescued ones who were once exploited in the trade before, but now they live in their natural habitat, and you can have a great few hours with them instead of having an elephant ride or something. Yeah. Camel ride is something that is there at a few places, but we are very conscious that they are not the exploited ones at all.
Yeah, I respect that a lot. As an animal lover myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very neat, very neat. And do you have any upcoming trips that you're excited about? I'm sure the coronavirus really threw a wrench into all your Planet Abled plans in 2020. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, we're fine because we had a good year so before the corona. So I think we're gonna survive this. Of course, I've survived bankruptcy twice, so I can survive this.
Wow. Yeah, because
So
it's, yeah, I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you as well. It's because no one can travel right now. So you might as well daydream about traveling.
yes,
Talk to a travel expert.
Yeah. So, but things would get better. I think we are using this time to work on things we never got the time to do before because we were too busy running the travel operations.
Yeah.
So,
And I bet you're going to be booming. I bet you when travel opens up, you're going to have so many clients because people are going to be really wanting to go out and travel.
yeah. Thank you so much. I really hope that comes true.
That's just my prediction. Yeah, and maybe I can give you one or two new clients, maybe.
Sure. Oh, I'll be really, really grateful.
Well, we'll see.
And when you come to India, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to come to India, check out,
Yeah.
do a trip with you.
Sure. I mean, that would be my pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's like many countries put together into one, so.
Yeah. I have family members that have been to India.
Uh-huh.
And they spoke really highly of it, and they really enjoyed their time there. So I'd love to go myself. So
you should put your foot outside of the U.S.
Yep.
As soon as COVID gets over.
Well, I did. I had a trip planned. I was going to travel to London, and I had a flight. I had a flight booked. And
okay.
But 2020 kind of ruined everything, right? So the coronavirus put a dampener on my plans. But I'll be back out there.
Yeah, I think it's just a breather, and something better is in store.
For sure. So I like to end each of my episodes with a kind of a shout out to maybe a charity or like nonprofit that you support that maybe no one knows about or that you just want to highlight. Do you happen to have like a organization or that you'd want to give a shout out to?
So what we try to do is we try to support not really organizations. We find individuals who need support and then go out of the way to help them. So like right now, there is one person with a spinal injury in India who has been bedridden for 3 years. And now we are working at how to get him the best of rehabilitation, because here we don't have like public health insurance that covers all of that like that. So we're trying to get him the benefits at one of the best spinal injury hospitals in Delhi. And so that's what we are working on right now. So we try to find, because his expense won't be something that would be small. And also giving money is easy. But when he doesn't have this the support to someone running around for him and getting things done for him, and he himself cannot do that, I think that kind of support is also important for us. Because I've seen my parents going through a lot of hassles as disabled people, and when you don't have money in this country with a disability, it's not a very easy life.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You're the first guest to just talk about giving money or like support directly to an individual, and I think that's completely a great idea. Yeah. And
we also have a gifted to a program like before the COVID thing.
Yeah.
Wherein we try to support people. It's there on the website also in the do good section, if you can see. So there we try to support people who otherwise cannot afford to travel.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome too, because traveling is expensive. You know? So, and then you tackle on accessibility issues with financial issues, and that a lot of people just can't do it. So How do you help in that way?
So it's just that. So there are 4 different ways in which people can contribute. Either they can just give whatever they want to for the fund, and once we have enough fund, we sponsor travel to one deserving person. Or they say, okay, I want to travel, gift a tour to some one person, and whatever the cost might be. So they come to us and they ask whatever, amount they want to support. And it's not just limited to money also. Even if they want to travel with them as a travel buddy, it's possible. So, so they can have a trip with a disabled person and pay for their travel, like as a gift or tour, and travel themselves also on that. So it's more like they would have a unique experience and the disabled person would have a life-changing experience. So it benefits the whole spectrum that way.
Amazing. And that's on the do good section on your website?
Yeah.
And that's planetable.com.
Yes.
There you can find a ton of information about Planet Able and what Neha is doing. You're on Instagram too. That's how I found you.
Yeah.
What's your handle?
It's Planet Abled everywhere. PlanetAbled. On Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and Twitter, everywhere.
Cool. So everyone listening, go follow Planet Abled. They should be on your radar. And when COVID's over and we can travel, and if you're looking for someone to set up a trip for you, consider Planet Abled. I think I'm really stoked on what you're doing.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And hopefully, maybe somebody will copycat you here in the U.S.
That's okay, as long as they do it well, and I'm happy to help them do well if they want to. So at the end of the day, what you want is to impact as many people as you want. And make as many people travel as they want, and make it an inclusive planet, right? So why not?
I agree completely. Well, Neha, I think that does it for our talk today. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I think it was great.
It was my pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'll be in touch.
Sure. I look forward to that.
Take care.
You too.
Well, that was episode 12 of the See Through podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening. And while it's fresh on your mind, can you do us all a favor and give Planet Abled a follow on social media? Just search for the handle at Planet Abled, PlanetAbled. You can also learn more about the trips they offer as well by visiting their website, planetable.com. And don't forget, you can follow the See Through podcast on all social media channels using the handle at SeeThroughPod. You can also visit our website, which is seethroughpod.com. Feel free to DM me on Instagram. I get back to everyone. So take care, everyone. And until next episode, everyone, stay transparent.